If your purpose changes every time you watch a podcast clip, it's not purpose. That's your moods. If your calling is disappearing the second it gets boring, your calling in life, that is. When it gets hard in life, that's not purpose. That's just excitement and your emotions. And if you're still waiting to magically find purpose, like it's hiding behind a tree somewhere or somebody's going to give it to you, well, psychologically speaking, there's bad news for you. That's not purpose either. Purpose is usually not found first. It's built. It's organized, it's tested, it's lived, it's experienced. So these are the top 3 facts about purpose from a psychological angle. What purpose actually is, where it comes from, why do people have it, and those people tend to move through life with more direction and less fragmentation than those who lead a meaningless, purposeless life. Well, the first fact is that purpose, it's not just about feelings. Psychology often defines purpose as a central, self-organizing aim in life, a pillar of life. It means that purpose isn't just random. It's not a burst of inspiration. It's not a trend. It's something that starts organizing your goals, your behavior, and your decisions over time. It's built. It gets given direction. It helps you decide what matters, what doesn't matter, and what to commit to. Also, what to stop wasting energy on. It's highly relatable to your moral compass in life. So one of the clearest definitions in research says that purpose organizes and stimulates goals. It manages behavior and provides a sense of meaning. That matters because a lot of people think that purpose should feel like just this constant excitement and passion, and it usually doesn't. And from a psychological standpoint, purpose is closer to orientation than excitement. It's a direction in life. It's more like a compass than a mood. It's also what keeps us moving forward when we have purpose, because those things that we do, which are purpose-driven, matter more for mental organization. Without it, you just get cluttered, you become busy, you're always productive, whatever that means. You can even be successful depending on the definition of success, but you feel scattered. And immediately you start to drift. You chase one target. When you feel it's done, you keep setting goals without deeper structure underneath them. Does this sound familiar? It definitely has to me in the past as well, especially being somebody so idea-focused, so goal-focused. But in other words, goals change, but your purpose in life makes all of that coherent rather than dissonant. It's why 2 people can have exactly the same drive and ambition on paper and experience it totally differently in life. One feels aligned, the other feels really empty, even when they're progressing. So this also clears up one of the biggest misconceptions around purpose. A lot of people assume that purpose means a perfect job, one perfect mission, one perfect sentence they can put in their Instagram or LinkedIn bio, one absolute truth in life. And you know what? Life's a bit different than that. The psychology of life doesn't really support these kinds of fantasies because purpose can evolve. It matures the same way your psychology does. It gets clearer across different life stages. And, it's not a fixed destination. Research shows that emerging adulthood and maturity develops over time and predicts well-being even when personality traits are accounted for. What does that mean? Purpose is not a lightning strike moment. Even though you have those and they can align you with a higher purpose, it's more like recognizing those patterns and those patterns becoming more coherent. That's why I talk about energy a lot, because you get these bursts of energies and they feel aligned, and it does help you shape your purpose. And that is a spiritual and a psychological path, but you need to fine tune this and be aware of this language in the first place and these theories. And one of the most influential theories in this framework of thought says that people function better when there's 3 basic psychological needs that are supported, which is autonomy, just keeping things going, competence, being good at what you're doing, and relatedness, being able to understand what you're doing it. And that makes you feel capable and effective. It makes you feel connected to other people, and it makes you feel like all of your needs are being supported and that you're guided, and it helps you feel self-motivated, and overall it's better for your well-being. And when those things are blocked, you feel alienated, depleted, less integrated. This is why it matters. This is why purpose matters. It matters a lot because people are trying to build purpose on goals that they don't actually own. They're chasing status goals, family goals, comparison goals. It's what this whole series is about. It's about looking at your fear-based goals, your survival goals, your instinctual goals that someone else has formulated in a different way, and formulating them for yourself and your own psychology. Because psychology and the nature of consciousness has a clean explanation for that. Self-coordination shows that goals work better when they're consistent in a person's core values and developing interests. Nobody's going to give you those except for yourself. If you've got those sourced from the outside, they're usually just masks for your ego to survive and to cope. So a purpose-driven life isn't just about having goals or things or, things that you do. It's about having goals and motivation that actually fits in with you, because we're all different. And that's why looking at it from, an external standpoint, external success, it feels psychologically empty for some people. I'm not saying for everyone. So if you're highly competent at something you didn't really meaningfully choose and you just stepped into it, family job, whatever it might be, all different types of things we kind of gradually drift into in life, we lose this sense of being productive and we become fragmented at the same time. And actually these theories are very clear on this point. This theory of self-determination points out that environments, they support autonomy, competence, and relatedness, but promote more authentic motivation and well-being, while environments that are overly controlling or disconnected, they undermine them. You just end up feeling lost. So purpose isn't just what am I good at. My purposes in life isn't just what I'm good at. It's what makes me feel alive and worth directing my life towards. So this is why purpose is tied to identity. Purpose isn't just something you do. It becomes part of how you understand yourself. This is a deeper sense of identity behind the just masks that we put on with the ego. And in early life, we have these in adolescence, but when we're developing adulthood, it can act in different ways, and different ways of avoiding it, like capital gaining and more stable sense of who you are throughout life. And these are all just terms, but until you work out what these mean, you can be pulled in like 10 different directions. You can be shaped by opinions all around you, but not actually organizing them from within. So a true sense of purpose actually reduces that by linking your behavior to your identity in a coherent way. And that coherence and understanding yourself and that inner work is what part of the nature of becoming a whole person's about. People like the idea of purpose. They like journaling about purpose, talking about purpose, branding themselves around purpose, posting about purpose. But psychologically, purpose becomes real when you change your behavior and act around that as well. And it matters because it's linked with the outcomes that happen in your life. So more purpose in life means lower levels of depression and anxiety. It means lower levels of consumption of drugs, alcohol, stress, and all the different situations that we're talking about. It actually turns you into a more healthier, functioning, resilient human being, which in turn helps everyone else in society as well. And, that happens because you align and you shape your attention to something called purpose, which is a commitment to your habits, a commitment to your choices. And so that's why purpose should be understood as directional behavior, not as positive vibes all the time, permanent emotional highs. It's not just about like purpose when you feel inspired and excited. That's like too transient. We're more complex than that. We get bored. We don't just survive on repetition. That's why when you have more meaning and a slower burn towards what we align and decide to do with in ourselves, it actually gives us that strength and resilience and the persistence that it takes to develop our sense of purpose. Because purpose is broad enough to guide multiple goals across time and context. And when it's truly present in your life, it increases in persistence and it resonates beyond just one temporary objective, and it aligns everything in your life in that objective as well. These also help your daily motivation goals. So it's where people confuse meaning with entertainment. Psychological driven purpose isn't supposed to feel exciting all the time. It's like doing these little daily check-ins with yourself. They don't always give you that feeling that you're moving forward, but they do strengthen this sense every day. And those paths are really useful because they actually contribute to your values and your identity and your growth. It doesn't remove your discomfort. It makes discomfort easier to place, and it gives it more of a context. And if you've been watching the series, context and perspective is what it's all about in giving yourself a point of alignment in life. It's how you relate to stress, how you think about it, how you think about your long-term efforts and the outcomes from the motivation behind putting yourself into an uncomfortable, stressful situation within yourself in the first place, if that's what it takes to find a truer sense of yourself. And inner work sometimes is that discomfort, but it's deeply rewarding as well. Short-term pleasures, short-term validation and avoidance, by comparison, don't give you the same kind of long-term benefits that purpose does. Positive adjustment, better self-image, lower delinquency, blood pressure, all the stuff that I've been talking about in this series. So instead of asking yourself, what do I feel like now? In a purpose-driven mentality, a person would ask themselves more like, what direction am I trying to serve through interacting with these people, doing this action, taking on this job, behaving this way? If we actually reduce these behaviors and these thought processes properly, purpose is actually quite clear. It's not just about feelings or slogans or podcasts or one form of identity. It's about actually central organization in your goals and your behavior and your direction as, one of the pillars in your life. When your goals are psychologically yours, when you're more aligned with your values, your interests, your autonomy, your competence, all the relationships that you choose to bring in and out of your life rather than them accidentally happening in your life. It gives you that power when it comes to behavior. It protects your mental health. You become a protector rather than a contributor to fragmentation and chaos and confusion. You're a giver of coherence, and that's what people can feel inside you. And besides others, it also gives you a clean way to think about what purpose is in your everyday life. It helps you with your achievement in your everyday life. And what more can we ask for than that meaning and that clarity that comes from all different places and aligning it into the direction that you want from your own life, And that's been the... It kept turning off. All right, hold on. So the better questions are not, what's my perfect purpose? What am I secretly meant to do forever? It's better from a psychological point of view. What goals feel like I have chosen them for myself rather than have learnt them somewhere else? Where do I feel both a challenge in life and alive at the same time for taking on that challenge? What am I building that fits my values? Those questions are much better than living out in a fantasy world. In fact, if you live in fantasy, maybe your purpose is to communicate that fantasy better and to inspire others. And maybe that's your purpose. I'm not dismissing being a dreamer, being creative, or whatever.